in the cow shed where Nanda Maharaj worships his Shalagram Shilas.
Garga Muni wanted to impress upon the mind of Nanda Maharaj, your worshipable deity Narayana is so pleased with you that he has sent you a son almost equal to him in qualifications. Therefore, you may designate your son with a similar name, such as Mukunda or Madhusudana. But you must always remember that whenever you want to do something very good, there will be many hindrances. Therefore, you should raise and protect this child with great care.
Though Garga Muni was hinting to Nanda Maharaj that your son is the same as Narayan, Narayan has blessed you by becoming his son. At the same time, he was warning him that there will be many hindrances. Now for the child Krishna, that would be a problem, but as the father of such a wonderful child, Nanda Maharaj had a great responsibility. And already, on the advice of Vasudeva, he saw that many demons had by that time come. 3 major demons had come just to kill his son. So Nanda Maharaj had to be especially careful in protecting this very special child.
This is Narasimhadev deity in Nandishwar, right?
Oh yes, I should talk about the deities. Yes, so Nanda Maharaj, now he's living in Vrindavan, which was the forest where Parjanya Maharaj was staying before. So Vrindavan now is called Mahavan, and nearby his palace there was an area where the cows and the cowherd men would go, and that was, since childhood, he was worshipping his Shalagram Shila of Lakshmi Narayan with the 8-syllable mantra. That 8-syllable mantra might be Om Namo Narayana. That's 8 syllables. So later, when there were so many disturbances in Vrindavan, then the cowherd men, along with Upananda and Nanda Maharaj, they decided they should go to live in Vrindavan. And there also was his ancestral place in Nandishwar, Nandagram. So while they were getting that place ready for residence, they stayed for 2 or 3 years here at Chatikara, where Krishna had his Vrindavan pastimes. Now till today, there's a temple. It's almost at the bottom, the back, let's see, east, I can't, east, the eastern side of the Nandishwar hill. There's a temple there, and in that temple are Nanda Maharaj's deities that he used to worship to protect his son. There's a beautiful deity of Nrsimhadev with Prahlad Maharaj. These are very ancient deities, the kind that are black, carved out of the stone as a relief. So there's Nrsimhadev and Prahlad, there's Varahadev, and there's Shalagram Shilas also.
If you can protect this child very cautiously, as Narayan always protects you, the child will be as good as Narayan. Garga Muni also indicated that although the child was exaltedly qualified like Narayan, he would enjoy more than Narayan as a Rasa Bihari, the central enjoyer of the Ras dance. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, Lakshmi Sahasrashata Sambrama Sevyamanam, Brahma Samhita 5.29, he would be served by many gopis, who would all be as good as the goddess of fortune. Wrote to Srimad Bhagavatam 10.8.19.
So Narayan in Vaikuntha, for each form of Narayan there's a corresponding form of Lakshmi Devi. She also has different names according to the names of Narayan. But Krishna, being the source of all the Narayans, Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrama Sevyamanu. So Sahasra Sata, that's hundreds and thousands of Lakshmis, will be worshipping Sri Krishna.
Garga Muni further informed Nanda Maharaj that because he was a great devotee of Narayan, Lord Narayan gave a son who is equal to him. At the same time he indicated, your son will be disturbed by so many demons, so be careful and protect him. In this way, Garga Muni convinced Nanda Maharaj that Narayan himself had become his son. In various ways, he described the transcendental qualities of his son. Krishna Book, Chapter 8.
Now Nanda Maharaj is hearing all of this from Garga Muni, but as small child, according to Gopal Champu, Krishna was 100 days old. 100 days old means just over 3 months old at this time. And he hadn't yet had his Anaprashan sanskara, which the first grains, because that sanskar is done at a time when the teeth come, and that's not usually till the 6th or the 7th month. So this child was so small and so helpless. And Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, they forgot everything just to protect their little child. They were completely absorbed in him. And just as a mother and a father, they protect their little child who's so helpless. So they were in the mood of pure love, this parental love, Vatsalya Ras. It didn't enter their mind even that although Garga Muni is saying that this child is as good as Narayan, he'll have so many transcendental qualities, for them, the mother and the father, he was just a completely innocent and helpless child that they had to protect. So the two didn't match at that time. Although they knew that he had transcendental qualities, for them he was not the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Garga referred to Lord Narayan as Bhagavan. According to Parashar Rishi's definition, Bhagavan refers to that person who fully possesses all authority, strength, fame, opulence, knowledge and renunciation. Narayana means the personality of Godhead, who casts his merciful glance Ayate on the multitude of living beings. Nara, by this glance, he bestows the potencies of knowledge and action, thus engaging the jivas in useful and sanctifying activities. Only Lord Narayana equals Krishna in some respects. The secondary expansions of Godhead do not even begin to equal Krishna. This is Brihad Bhagavatamrita.
So this is an explanation just of when Garga Muni referred to this little child as being Narayana Sama. So he had, Narayan has some of the qualities of Krishna, as Parasara Muni defines Bhagavan. He has these 6 opulences, but Sri Krishna, he has everything in full. So Narayan has some of the opulences that Sri Krishna has.
From afar, seeing the 2 infant boys clinging to their mother's breast, 2 boys glistening like jewel mantras, Garga Muni at once stood up to honor the great power and glory of Supreme Personality of Godhead now present there. Garga Muni did not consider his own position as Lord's material superior. With unblinking eyes, Garga Muni gazed at the 2 dark and fair infant boys fondled by their mothers. The austere sage could not for a moment stop the tears that filled his eyes. Somehow regaining his composure, the great sage offered respectful obeisances to the 2 infant boys and their mothers. This is from Gopal Champu.
So I'm adding these things because it adds a lot more richness to this experience. In this particular Leela, Krishna and Balaram, they're passive, they're not engaged in any particular activity. But we're hearing about the different types of love that devotees have. So Garga Muni, because he understood the actual identities of these 2 little children who were holding on so tightly to their mothers, he knew that they were the Supreme Personality of Godhead. enacting their childhood Leela. And when he saw them, he immediately rose, and he didn't consider himself, although he was the priest of the Yadu dynasty, he didn't consider himself as superior to them. He was their devotee, and being their devotee, tears came to his eyes in ecstasy.
Pleasing ecstatic symptoms of ecstasy. This type of symptom was experienced by priest Gargamuni, who had performed some ritualistic ceremony in the house of Nanda Maharaj. When he heard about Krishna's killing the Aghasur demon, Krishna's killing of the Aghasur demon, there were some tears visible in his eyes. His throat was trembling and perspiration covered his whole body. In this way, priest Gargamuni's beautiful face assumed a nice condition.
This was later, of course. This is explained in this is from the Nectar of Devotion. Prabhupada gives us an example of Gargamuni, who's come to the platform of raising ecstatic symptoms of ecstasy, because just by hearing about Krishna's pastimes, these sattvic bhavs appear on his body.
O King of Raja, by your desire I have come here. I will perform the sanskaras of these two boys born in twice-born families. However, it will not be possible to perform the Karna Veda, ear-piercing, and Chuda Karna, hair-cutting sanskaras. Therefore, you should perform on the Anna Prashana, first eating of grains. You will not be able to arrange these boys Vita Samavartha, first schooling, or Vivaha, wedding rituals. Whether or not I know the auspicious times when these rituals will be performed, I will certainly be the person that will perform them. Gopal Champu.
So because Gargamuni is only coming this one time for the Namakara and Sanskar on the request of Vasudev, the next sanskars for a child, and these sanskars are, Maitreya Prabhu, yesterday you asked about do Vaishnavas perform these. This is in the Grihastha ashram. It's mostly for, in family life, from the Garbhodan sanskara up to the time of death. There are 10 sanskars. So it's from the time the child was conceived, his birth, his name giving, the first grains, then ear piercing, then hair cutting, then the first time he goes to school, then after that, when he, there's in between that different type, like for instance the sanskar that we've undergone is initiation, right? The second birth. So that's a sanskara. And as a brahmachari, the only other sanskar you'll be performing is when you die, your antim sanskar. So for Krishna and for Gargamuni and Nanda Maharaj, Gargamuni was giving a foretelling, because as an astrologer he understood all of this, that he wouldn't be present for the ear-piercing sanskara or for the hair-cutting sanskara. And when the next sanskara coming up is Anaprasan, it could be any time when the first teeth come in, because that's when the child then is ready to start eating solid foods. So then he told Nanda Maharaj that these 3 sanskaras you should perform. And the next sanskaras, which is, there are quite a few that Gargamuni performed for Krishna in Mathura, the giving of the sacred thread, the acceptance of the brahmachari vrat, and then his going to school, and then finally his marriage. So Gargamuni, although he doesn't tell when those times will be, he said that he will certainly be the person to perform those sanskaras, and Nanda Maharaj wouldn't be present for them.
At the time of this boy's birth, the moon, Mars, Mercury and Saturn were all exalted. They were situated in Taurus, Virgo, Libra and Capricorn respectively. The sun, Venus and Rahu were in Leo, Libra and Scorpio respectively. Taurus was on the horizon, Jupiter was in Pisces, the place of gains. Gains. This boy was born at midnight of the 8th Tithi of dark moon. On a Wednesday, when the star Rohini was conjoined with the moon. The lotus-eyed boy born at this time will be named Krishna. He is Supreme Personality of Godhead now manifested in this world. This is Gopal Champu.
So generally, when a priest is called to perform the Namakaran Sanskara, he makes the child famous by giving a name. But in this instance, because Gargamuni was able to give a name and the foretelling of Krishna's qualities and his activities, Gargamuni became famous because he was able to do this service for Krishna.
This is Krishna was born on Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Gauranga Mahaprabhu was born on Friday.
In secret, unseen by anyone, Maharaj Nanda offered Dakshina of 10,000 cows and a million pieces of rich like Indragop gold to the expert sage Gargamuni. Calling for all his kinsmen, Maharaj Nanda again performed the Namakarana ceremony, this time very elaborately and with great pomp. In this way, he delighted everyone. This is from Gopal Champu.
Yes. So just like we were discussing a few days ago, how when Prabhupada was present here, naturally the devotees, whenever they had a child, they would try to get Prabhupada to give a name for that child. Because Prabhupada, being their spiritual master, the Acharya of the world, coming down in the Sampradaya, it's the most auspicious thing if the greatest saintly person can give a name to the child. So like that, Nanda Maharaj had not yet performed the Namakaran Sanskar for the two boys. And when he saw Gargamuni coming, he immediately thought we should ask him to do it because he's such an elevated saintly person. And therefore secretly Gargamuni did perform the Namakaran Sanskar. But then, for the pleasure of all of his kinsmen, he called his own Brahmins for the Vaishyas, and he had a very, very elaborate, big, nice ceremony with a lot of charity given and a lot of gifts given, a lot of prasad distributed, and again that second Namakaran Sanskar was performed.
After giving this information, Gargamuni returned to his home. Nanda Maharaj began to think of himself as the most fortunate person, and he was very satisfied to be benedicted in this way. Krishna Book, Chapter 8. Srila Shukadeva Goswami continued, after Gargamuni, having instructed Nanda Maharaj about Krishna, departed for his own home, Nanda Maharaj was very pleased and considered himself full of all good fortune. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:20. Krishna is the super soul and Nanda Maharaj is the individual soul. Krishna is the super soul and Nanda Maharaj is the individual soul. By the instructions of Gargamuni, both of them were blessed. Nanda Maharaj was thinking of how to keep Krishna safe from the hands of demons like Putana, Shakatashur. And because Nanda possessed such a son, he thought of himself as most fortunate. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:20.
So for devotees of the Lord, such as all of the Brijbasis, they worship the Supreme Lord for His pleasure, just as they perform so many pious activities to protect Krishna. So Nanda Maharaj, because his whole life he had been worshipping Narayana, he was feeling himself so fortunate and so blessed. Gargamuni simply informed him of his great fortune, but already he knew Krishna was such a special child. And Gargamuni, because he gave so many blessings to the two boys, he knew that everything would be all auspicious. Although Gargamuni at the same time warned him that he had to protect the children. So Nanda Maharaj was thinking of his great fortune and at the same time his great responsibility.
A short time after this incident, both Balaram and Krishna began to crawl on their hands and knees. When they were crawling like that, they pleased their mothers. The bells tied to their waist and ankles sounded fascinating, and they would move around very pleasingly. Krishna Book Chapter 8. After a short time passed, both brothers Rama and Krishna began to crawl on the ground of Raja with the strength of their hands and knees, and thus enjoy their childhood play. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-21.
So Manusim Tanu Ashritaha. The Supreme Lord, in order to enjoy his pastimes, has appeared as a small child, and just like any little child, at the age of about 7 months, they start to crawl around. First they creep. Creeping means they drag their body with their arms, and their legs aren't active yet. Then as they become a little stronger, they're able to crawl around. And the inhabitants of Vrindavan were enjoying these pastimes so much, watching little Krishna and Balaram learning how to crawl around, listening to the bells tinkling on their ankles and their waists. And Krishna and Balaram were also enjoying themselves.
One Brahmana devotee says, Shrutim apare smritimitare bharatamanye bhajantu bhavabhita ahamiha nandam vande yasyalinde param brahma. Let others fearing material existence worship the Vedas, the Vedic supplementary Puranas and the Mahabharata, but I shall worship Nanda Maharaj, in whose courtyard the Supreme Brahman is crawling. For a highly exalted devotee, Kaivalya, merging into existence of Supreme, appears no better than hell, Narakayate. But here one can simply think of the crawling of Krishna and Balram in the courtyard of Nanda Maharaj and always merge in transcendental happiness. This purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-21.
So this is the special quality of Braja. Due to the influence of Yogamaya, no one, although they just heard it from Gargamuni, but no one suspects that these two little boys, Krishna and Balaram, are the Supreme Personalities of Godhead. They're being treated just like ordinary little boys. And they're being loved and fondled and appreciated and given milk and protected by the mother and their father, just as if they were their own children. So this is the way Krishna wanted to enjoy. And with the spell of Yogamaya, Nanda and Yashoda, they loved Krishna so dearly as their own son. Even though Gargamuni told them in so many different ways, still he was their little baby and they loved him just like a small child.
As long as one is absorbed in thoughts of Krishna Leela, especially Krishna's childhood pastimes, as Maharaj Parikshit desired to be, one is always merged in actual Kaivalya. Therefore Vyasa compiled Srimad Bhagavatam, Lokasya ajanato vidmas chakre satvada samhidam, Srimad Bhagavatam 176. Vyasadeva compiled Srimad Bhagavatam under the instruction of Narada, so that everyone can take advantage of this literature, think of Krishna's pastimes and always be liberated. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-20. The material miseries of the living entity which are superfluous to him can be directly mitigated by the linking process of devotional service. But the mass of people do not know this, and therefore the learned Vyasadeva compiled this Vedic literature which is in relation to the Supreme Truth. This is Srimad Bhagavatam 176.
So this is the perfection of life, if we can absorb ourselves. And here Prabhupada says this is the real Kaivalya, the merging into the Supreme Lord, when we merge into hearing about his childhood pastimes. Now, for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, following Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we understand that amongst the 5 rasas, the topmost rasa is Paridya rasa, Madhurya rasa. But there are other sampradayas and other acharyas who give a lot of emphasis to this Vatsalya rasa, For instance, the Pushti Marg, the followers of Vallabhacharya, they worship, you've seen, I'm sure everybody here has seen, the little Laddu Gopal deities. So this Laddu Gopal deity, that's Krishna during this age. When he's crawling, he's just learning to crawl, and he's crawling around, and he's putting his hand into the milk pots, taking out butter, or eating a laddu. So they absorb themselves and they worship baby Krishna in that mood by waking him up very gently, giving him toys to play with, giving him food that a little child would eat. And that's their absorption in this Vatsalya Ras. And their temples are called Havelis. Havelis are mansions, houses. And another name for their temples are Nandalaya. That means house of Nanda Maharaj. Because their mood is they're worshipping baby Krishna as Nanda and Yashoda worshipped them or cared for them.
Sometimes, just like ordinary children, they would be frightened by others and would immediately hurry to their mothers for protection. Krishna Book, Chapter 8. When Krishna and Balaram, with the strength of their legs, crawled in the muddy places created in Vraja by cow dung and cow urine, their crawling resembled the crawling of serpents, and the sound of their ankle bells was very charming. Very much pleased by the sound of other people's ankle bells, they used to follow these people as if going to their mothers. But when they saw that these were other people, they became afraid and returned to their real mothers, Yashoda and Rohini. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-22.
So for those who have had children, these are exactly the pastimes that we experience in the material world in raising children. Sometimes a child accidentally will go up and hug someone that they think is their mother. When the mother turns around, they become so frightened, then they become looking for their mother. Where's my mother? Where's my mother? And also, we have to, because in Braj, cow protection is the most important thing. So if you live with the cows, you can see the amazing quality of the cows with their calves. There can be hundreds of cows and hundreds of calves. But when you let the calves loose, each calf knows exactly who its mother is. And they'll find that mother. So this is the way Krishna and Balaram were. They were so attached to their mothers. And they took shelter of them for everything. And there was so much love between the mother and the children. And this is Vatsalya Ras.
When Krishna and Balaram were crawling about Vrajabhumi, they were enchanted by the sound of ankle bells. Thus they sometimes followed other people who would enjoy the crawling of Krishna and Balaram and exclaim, "Oh, see how Krishna and Balaram are crawling." Upon hearing this, Krishna and Balaram could understand that these were not their mothers. These were not their mothers they were following, and they would return to their actual mothers. Thus the crawling of Krishna Balaram was enjoyed by the people of neighborhood, as well as by Mother Yashoda and Rohini and the two children themselves. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-22.
So this crawling stage, of course each child is different, but generally by the 6th to the 9th month, the children start to crawl. And then they want to start to walk. But they need the mother, especially at that time, because they have to hold on to the mother, take little baby steps. So from about the 9th to the 16th month, that's a little over a year, they start their walking. Some earlier, some later. But this is the general development of a little child. So Krishna and Balaram were following exactly like that and enjoying every moment with their mothers.
Sometimes they would fall into clay and mud of Vrindavan and would approach their mothers smeared with clay and saffron. They were actually smeared with saffron and sandalwood pulp by their mothers, But due to crawling over muddy clay, they would simultaneously smear their bodies with clay. As soon as they would come crawling to their mothers, Yashoda and Rohini would take them on their laps and, covering the lower portion of their saris, allow them to suck their breasts. When the babies were sucking their breasts, the mothers would see small teeth coming in. Thus their joy would be intensified to see their children grow. Krishna Book, Chapter 8.
So we don't want to talk too publicly about the joys of a mother when she's feeding her little child. But a mother, when she's looking at her baby, and the baby is so dependent on the mother, because the mother is everything for a child. Her protector, her maintainer, her nourisher. So this is the way Krishna and Mother Yasoda enjoyed their relationship. And that rasa of Vatsalya Bhav increased more and more as Krishna grew. So now Mother Yasoda, because Krishna's come to that stage where his teeth have started to come in. So when he's sucking her breast, sometimes she would look in his mouth and see the little buds of teeth that were coming. And they would talk together, Mother Yasoda and Rohini, about how the boys are developing and how they're getting their teeth.
Dressed with muddy earth mixed with cow dung and cow urine, the babies looked very beautiful. And when they went to their mothers, Yashoda and Rohini picked them up with great affection, embraced them and allowed them to suck milk flowing from their breasts. While sucking the breast, the babies smiled and their small teeth were visible. Their mothers, upon seeing those beautiful teeth, enjoyed great transcendental bliss. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-23.
Now in the material world, when babies are teething, when they get their teeth, it's supposed to be the most painful experience in the world, and the babies cry and cry, they can't sleep. So one time we had the experience of being with Prabhupada while a baby was teething, a newborn baby, just this age. And whole night she cried. So we had to walk with her. This was another devotee's baby. So the mother finally, she couldn't stay up any longer. So the mother went to sleep and I had to carry the baby the rest of the night. So Prabhupada's room was right underneath where we were staying. And he heard this the whole night with the baby crying and the teething and the fever. So in the morning, Prabhupada asked the mother, he said, "Oh, the baby is teething?" Yes, Srila Prabhupada. He said, "You don't know? You have to give something hard for the baby to chew on, and then the teeth will break through." So Prabhupada, he knew everything about everything. He had 5 children himself. In the material world, what's so painful for the child was giving so much pleasure here to Yashoda and Rohini, because this is all in the transcendental realm. You don't have the miseries that the children have to go through here. Yes, we eat something hard to chew.
As mothers cared for their respective babies, by the arrangement of Yogamaya, the babies thought, "Here is my mother," and the mothers thought, "Here is my son." Because of affection, milk naturally flowed from the mother's breasts, and the babies drank it. When the mothers saw small teeth coming in, they would count them and be happy. And when the babies saw their mothers allowing them to drink their breast milk, babies also felt transcendental pleasure. As this transcendental affection continued between Rohini and Balram and Yashoda and Krishna, they all enjoyed transcendental bliss. This purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-22.
So this is the original rasa between a child and their mother. And Krishna and Balaram are enjoying these rasas with their eternal mothers. And what we experience here in the material world is simply an upside down perverted reflection. Though Prabhupada explains that in the material world, the purest love is that between a mother and her child, because the mother feels completely protective of the child, and the child feels completely dependent upon the mother. So that type of love, just like the living entity has for the Supreme Lord, complete dependence and the total protector, that's the way the mother and the child love each other.
Sometimes the naughty babies will crawl up to the cowshed, catch the tail of a calf and stand up. The cows, being disturbed, would immediately begin running here and there, and the children would be dragged over clay and cow dung. To see this fun, Yashoda and Rohini would call all their neighboring friends, the gopis. Upon seeing these childhood pastimes of Lord Krishna, the gopis would emerge in transcendental bliss. In their enjoyment, they would laugh very loudly. Krishna Book, Chapter 8.
So Krishna chose to have his pastimes in the home of the Vaishya king, Nanda Maharaj. And his primary activity throughout his childhood was cow protection. So as a small baby crawling around, from his angle of vision, the tail was just like a rope. So he would grab onto that, and then all the fun would start, and the gopis would enjoy all the activities of Krishna and Balaram so much.
Within the house of Nanda Maharaj, the cowherd ladies would enjoy seeing the pastimes of babies Rama and Krishna. The babies would catch the ends of the calves' tails, and the cows would drag them here and there. When the ladies saw these pastimes, they suddenly stopped their household activities and laughed and enjoyed the incidents. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:24.
So these elderly gopis, who were the associates of Yashoda Mai, they also had that Vatsalya Ras with Krishna. They enjoyed his childhood pastimes. Some of them were nurses to him. Some of them helped him. Some of them helped him to learn how to talk. They all liked to serve these two little children in the houses of Yashoda and Rohini.
While crawling in curiosity, Krishna and Balram would sometimes catch the ends of the tails of calves. The calves, feeling that someone had caught them, would begin to flee here and there, and the babies would hold on very tightly, being afraid of how the cows were moving. The cows, seeing that the babies were holding them tightly, would also become afraid. Then the ladies would come to rescue the babies and gladly laugh. This was their enjoyment. It's purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:24.
So along with the cows, there were so many other animals, because they were living out in the jungle. They had to live out in the open because the cows had to graze. 900,000 cows, you needed a lot of land. So within the house, the cows lived, because Mother Yashoda had special cows, 9 special cows, that she would feed special fragrant grasses, so they would produce the best quality of milk that she would make things for Krishna with. So in order to get milk, you have to have calves. So those calves would also be there within the house, and these were the calves that Krishna played with.
Both Krishna and Balram were so restless that their mothers Yashoda and Rohini would try to protect them from cows, bulls, monkeys, water, fire and birds while they were executing their household duties. Always being anxious to protect the children and to execute their duties, they were not very tranquil. Krishna Book, Chapter 8.
So a mother who loves her child very much is always thinking of the safety of the child. And she just sees the dangers. She sees, oh, he might touch this animal might attack him, like that. So the mother is just absorbed constantly in how to protect her child, and therefore the minds are agitated. Now in the science of Bhakti Yoga, Srila Rupa Goswami, he explains how rasa is enriched. And those rasas are enriched with different bhavas. Those bhavas are how we develop a love for Krishna, from rati to prem and beyond. So there are particular bhavas. Their sthai bhava means our rasa, the fixed of the 5 rasas. Then there's, we'll read about them. But there are particular bhavas called vyabhichari bhava. And these are destructive. Destructive means they're not the type of thing that you would think are contained within loving relationships. There's pride, there's anger, there's laziness, there's disappointment, there are so many things that are negative. But these vyabhichari bhavas are like waves in the ocean of love, of rasa. So they come up and they go down, they come up and they go down. So sometimes Mother Yasoda would be afraid, sometimes she would be angry, sometimes she would chastise her son, and these are all these vyabhichari bhavas that simply add to the flavor of the Vatsalya Ras.
When Mother Yashoda and Rohini were unable to protect the babies from calamities threatened by horned cows, by fire, by animals with claws and teeth, such as monkeys, dogs and cats, and by thorns, swords and other weapons on the ground, they were always in anxiety. Their household engagements were disturbed. At that time they were fully equipoised in the transcendental ecstasy known as a distress of maternal affection. For this was aroused within their minds. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-25.
So these are some of those waves of vyabhichari bhava, that they sound destructive, they sound aggressive, they sound contrary to love, but they actually increase the love of the mother for their child. In whichever rasa they're in, these vyabhichari bhavas are manifested. So for a mother, they're manifested as anxiety, as distress, as fear, because the mother sees all of these things that might harm their child. So they can't do their work peacefully, because they're always worrying about what's going to happen to that little child.
All these pastimes of Krishna and the great enjoyment exhibited by the mothers are transcendental. Nothing about them is material. They are described in Brahma Samhita as Ananda Chinmaya Rasa. In the spiritual world there is anxiety, there is cry, there are other feelings similar to those of material world. But because the reality of these feelings is in transcendental world, of which this world is only an imitation, Mother Yashoda and Rohini enjoyed them transcendentally. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-25.
So this is the perfection of love, when everything is centered around Krishna or Balaram. And here in the material world, we're trying to attain that love, but in a perverted form, with people other than Krishna. So therefore, all of those rasas, although they're present here, they're temporary, and ultimately they're miserable because they come to an end.
All in all, there are 33 Vyabhichari Bhavas. V means specifically, Abhi means towards, and Chari means moving. They are called Vyabhichari Bhavas because they specifically move towards and nourish Sthai Bhav. As they sancharita, travel throughout the body, mind and words, they are also referred to as Sanchari Bhavas. They are waves that arise from the nectar emotion of Sthai Bhav, causing it to swell before they return to their source. This is from Jaiva Dharma.
So, first there's rati, there's affection for the Lord. And then these different types of ecstasies or bhavas are developed according to our different sthai bhavas. Sthai means fixed. For instance, we have Santa, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, and Madhurya Ras. These are the 5 sthai bhavas. And then to increase this love, these different bhavas appear. And the Vyabhichari bhavas, which are compared to waves in the ocean of love, They come up and they go down. They appear and then they disappear. They're not sthayi. They're intermittent, like waves that are up and down in the ocean. So sometimes Mother Yasoda, she would experience these different types of vyabhichari bhavas, such as chastising her son, getting angry at him, crying, being anxiety, like that. So these are all the vyabhichari bhavas that increase the pleasure of that sthayi bhava.
In a very short time, both Krishna and Balaram began to stand up and slightly move on their legs. Krishna Book, Chapter 8. O King Parikshit, within a very short time, both Rama and Krishna began to walk very easily in Gokula on their legs by their own strength, without the need to crawl. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-26. Instead of crawling with their knees, the babies could now stand up by holding on to something and walk little by little, without difficulty, by the strength of their legs. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-26.
So this Vatsalya Bhav is appreciated very much by the Supreme Lord. We can remember that when Prahlad Maharaj was in distress, Lord Nrsingadeva appeared. And after he killed Hiranyakashipu, he held Prahlad Maharaj in his arms and expressed so much love for this little child, this little boy whose father he had just killed. So this Vatsalya Rasa was being experienced by Nrsingadeva for Prahlad. So it was so attractive to him that he decided in the next incarnation he would become Vamanadev, the little boy dwarf. And Vamanadev is one of the 3 incarnations of the Supreme Lord that Devaki and Vasudeva were previously, Kasyapa and Aditi, because he wanted to experience that love of Vatsalya Ras with a mother and a father. So now again, Krishna, because in the spiritual world, Krishna has his father and his mother, his eternal father and his mother, who are Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj. So Krishna and Balaram, they've come here to this special area of Braja to enjoy those pastimes, and they're prakat lila. That means for our benefit, they're manifest so they can be recorded and we can hear about these beautiful pastimes that are going on eternally in the spiritual world.
As he was first learning to walk, infant Krishna let go of Yashoda's hand and began to stumble. Taking 2 or 3 steps, infant Krishna would walk, stumble, cry, and make his mother tremble as she called out, "Son, son," and kissed him. When by his own power he would walk short distances, infant Krishna would look at his mother's face and feel great delight. Slowly he walked far away from his mother. Then smiling, infant Krishna quickly returned to her. This is Gopal Champu.
Now, anyone, tell me, is this the way the Supreme Personality of Godhead acts? How could Mother Yasoda possibly believe that this is the Supreme Lord? He's so dependent upon her. He loves her and depends on her so much. And she's so worried about him at all times as the only protector of her little son.
When Krishna and Balaram began to walk, other friends of the same age joined them, and together they began to give the highest transcendental pleasure to the gopis, specifically to Mother Yashoda and Rohini. Krishna Book, Chapter 8. Thereafter Lord Krishna, along with Balaram, began to play with the other children of the cowherd men, thus awakening the transcendental bliss of the cowherd women. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:27. The word Saharamaha, meaning along with Balaram, is significant in this verse. In such transcendental pastimes, Krishna is the chief hero and Balaram provides additional help. Purport to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:27.
Balaram is the first expansion of Sri Krishna, and he's also a servant of the Supreme Lord. all of the expansions of the Lord are also servants of the Supreme Lord. So whenever Krishna appears in any form, any avatar, Balaram accompanies him in a mood of and a role of servitude. So here Balaram, because previously when Krishna appeared as Lord Ramachandra, Balaram appeared as his younger brother, Lakshman. And Lakshman was not very happy about some of the things that Ramachandra did. Particularly that he was told by Ramachandra to take Sita to the forest and abandon her there while she was pregnant. So Lakshman at that time decided, next time I'm going to be the elder brother, so I don't have to follow my older brother's instructions. So this time around he became the older brother. But even though he was the older brother, still he had a relationship of Dasya, Sakya and Vatsalya mixed. Because as an older brother he also had that protective mood towards Krishna. And Mother Yasoda wouldn't allow Krishna to go anywhere without Balaram, because she didn't feel safe unless he was there to protect Krishna.
All the gopi friends of Yashoda and Rohini enjoyed the naughty, childish activities of Krishna and Balaram in Vrindavan. In order to enjoy further transcendental bliss, they all assembled and went to Mother Yashoda to lodge complaints against the restless boys. Krishna Book, Chapter 8. Observing the very attractive childish restlessness of Krishna, all the gopis in the neighborhood, to hear about Krishna's activities again and again, would approach Mother Yashoda and speak to her as follows. 10:28.
So this was their joy. Actually, they enjoyed very much that Krishna would come and steal from them, because they were making everything for him anyway. Whatever they made was going to be offered. In every home in Braja, there was the sun god being worshipped, and they would do Mangal Artik every day, and they were worshipping the Supreme Lord. So whatever they offered was going to Krishna. So if Krishna came personally to take those things, why would they object? But just to increase the fun, the pleasure of all the whole community, the different mothers would come together and lodge complaints against the boys, how they were coming to their house and causing so much mischief.
Krishna's activities are always very attractive to devotees. Therefore the neighbors, who were friends of Mother Yashoda, informed Mother Yashoda of whatever they saw Krishna doing in the neighborhood. Mother Yashoda, just to hear about the activities of her son, stopped her household duties and enjoyed the information given by neighborhood friends. Report to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:8-28.
So even as a small child, there's so many children in the community, but Krishna was special. First of all, he was going to be the prince of all of these people. So they were his subjects actually. And not only that, he was Krishna. He was so attractive, that's why his name is Krishna. And all of these elderly gopis, they loved to talk about him. And they loved to meet with Yashoda Maya. Mother Yashoda, she would stop her activities just to hear all the things that the ladies were telling her about what Krishna was doing in the neighborhood.
When Krishna was sitting before Mother Yashoda, all the elderly gopis began to lodge complaints against him so that Krishna could hear. They said, "Dear Yashoda, why don't you restrict your naughty Krishna? He comes to our houses along with Balaram every morning and evening, and before the milking of the cows, they let loose the cows, and the cows drink all the milk of the cows. So when we go to milk the cows, we find no milk, and we have to return with empty pots. If we warn Krishna and Balaram about doing this, they simply smile charmingly. We cannot do anything." Krishna Book, Chapter 8.
So now comes a turning point. And that turning point is that previously Krishna was the complete life of Mother Yasoda, he still is, and she looked after him just as a protective cow looks after her calf. But it was her responsibility now to train her son so that he wouldn't grow up to be a thief and a rogue. That's the parents' responsibility. They have to train their children. So the mothers in the neighborhood, they would come and complain that this is what he's doing, this, and she would try, as it's her responsibility, she would try to correct him. Even, we'll hear later in this chapter, she even had to tie him up. She felt that that was the only way to stop him from doing so much mischief. So this is now Mother Yasoda in a different mood because, what was I going to say? Mother Yasoda, it was her responsibility as the mother of Krishna to train him properly.
Also your Krishna and Balram find great pleasure in stealing our stock of yogurt and butter from wherever we keep it. When Krishna and Balram are caught stealing the yogurt and butter, they say, "Why do you charge us with stealing? Do you think that butter and yogurt are in scarcity in our house?" Sometimes they steal butter, yogurt, milk and distribute them to the monkeys. When the monkeys are well fed and do not take any more, then your boys chide, "This butter, this milk and butter and yogurt are useless. Even the monkeys won't take it." And they break the pots and throw them hither and thither. Krishna Book, chapter 8.
Oh yes, this is what I wanted to say. That according to Srila Prabhupada, the naughtier a child is, the more intelligent he is. So up to the age of 5, a child should be treated just like a king. So he was very young at this time. He was maybe 2 years old. We've heard of the terrible twos in the material world. So Krishna and Balaram, they were taking that to the farthest extent. They would do as much mischief, they would be as naughty as possible and take great pleasure. They would scheme with their friends how to do as much mischief as possible.
Our dear friend Yashoda, your son sometimes comes to our houses before the milking of the cows and releases the cows, and when the master of the house becomes angry, your son merely smiles. Sometimes he devises some process by which he steals palatable yogurt, butter and milk, which he then eats and drinks. When the monkeys assemble, he divides it with them, and when the monkeys have their bellies so full that they won't take any more, he breaks the pots. Sometimes if he gets no opportunity to steal butter or milk from the house, he will be angry at the householders, and for his revenge he will agitate the small children by pinching them. Then when the children begin crying, Krishna will go away. Srimad Bhagavatam 10:29.
We used to have this picture on the outside of our temple here. It's very big, life-size. Is it still there?
Yeah.
Where?
On the right side.
On the other, oh, they moved it to the other side, because where our shop is. It was right in front of our matchless gift shop. And the monkeys would come, and see that little baby monkey down there? And the little baby monkey is eating some butter. And the monkeys would come and try to take the butter from the baby monkey. So, not only would they steal butter and yogurt and things from other houses,